Beneath the familiar highways of America, under the rolling plains and desert mesas you've driven past 1,000 times, lies a secret that challenges everything you were taught about this continent's history. The textbooks tell us that advanced civilization came to the Americas with European ships. But what if that story is a carefully constructed lie? Tonight, as you settle into this journey through hidden time, consider this. Scattered across the American landscape are stone structures, underground cities, and precision-engineered monuments that predate Columbus by thousands of years. Megalithic ruins in Alaska's wilderness, vast copper mining operations in Michigan that shipped metals across ancient oceans, astronomical observatories in Wyoming that tracked celestial cycles with NASA-level accuracy. Yet these discoveries are systematically suppressed, buried in classified files, or dismissed by institutions that profit from maintaining the official narrative. Why would powerful forces work so hard to hide evidence of advanced ancient civilizations on American soil? What threatens them about the truth of our continent's deep past? The answers lie not in distant Egypt or mysterious Atlantis, but right here beneath American Earth. So close your eyes. Let the familiar sounds of home fade away and prepare to discover the forbidden archaeology of your own backyard. In the heart of the American Southwest, where red sandstone cliffs rise like ancient cathedrals against an endless sky, millions of tourists each year visit the official ruins that tell a carefully curated story of America's past. Mesa Verde's cliff dwellings and Cañón de Chelly's prehistoric settlements are presented as the pinnacle of ancient American achievement. Impressive, certainly, but safely contained within the narrative of primitive peoples using simple stone tools. But what the tour guides don't tell you, what the National Park Service brochures carefully omit, is that these famous sites represent only a fraction of what lies hidden beneath the desert floor. Scattered across the Four Corners region, buried under centuries of sand and protected by government restrictions, are megalithic structures that challenge everything we've been taught about pre-Columbian America. Dr. Patricia Clearwater, a geologist who spent 15 years conducting LIDAR surveys for the Bureau of Land Management, discovered this hidden reality by accident. In 2019, while mapping potential mineral deposits near Chaco Canyon, her team's ground-penetrating radar detected something extraordinary. Beneath the familiar landscape of sagebrush and scattered ruins lay geometric patterns of such precision and scale that they defied conventional explanations. What we found didn't match anything in the archaeological record, Clearwater revealed in a rare interview before her research was classified. These weren't the random stone circles or simple dwellings we expected. These were engineered structures laid out in mathematical sequences that would challenge modern surveyors. The structures Clearwater's team discovered stretched across an area of nearly 40 square miles, forming intricate geometric patterns that could only be fully appreciated from aerial perspective. Massive stone blocks, some weighing over 20 tons, had been precisely arranged in perfect circles, spirals, and complex polygonal shapes. The precision was so exact that the margins of error fell within tolerances that modern construction equipment struggles to achieve. Professor Hudson Ashworth, an archaeologist at Arizona State University, encountered this same wall of silence when he attempted to investigate similar anomalies detected by student researchers using drone-mounted magnetometers. The students had discovered what appeared to be a vast underground complex beneath an unnamed mesa near Sedona, complete with chambers, corridors, and what looked like precisely engineered ventilation systems. The magnetic signature was unlike anything we'd seen in natural rock formations, Ashworth documented in his suppressed field notes. The subsurface structures showed clear evidence of planning and construction. Some chambers were large enough to hold hundreds of people, connected by passages that followed geometric principles rather than natural cave formation patterns. When Ashworth applied for excavation permits, he was told that the site fell under multiple jurisdictional complexities, involving federal agencies that had no clear connection to archaeological oversight. His grant funding was mysteriously withdrawn, and university administrators suggested he focus his research on less controversial projects. The drone data was confiscated by officials claiming homeland security concerns, but perhaps most telling was what happened to the site itself. Within 6 months of the initial discovery, the area was surrounded by new fencing and designated as a biological preserve to protect an allegedly endangered species of desert tortoise. Satellite imagery from before and after the designation shows clear evidence of excavation work conducted by unmarked vehicles, followed by systematic backfilling of the terrain. The message was unmistakable. Some discoveries are too significant to be left to academic inquiry. The sophistication of these hidden structures becomes even more remarkable when examined through advanced imaging technology. Thermal satellite data reveals that the buried megalithic complexes maintain different temperature signatures than surrounding terrain, suggesting internal spaces that continue to regulate airflow thousands of years after construction. Ground-penetrating radar shows that many of these sites incorporate sophisticated drainage systems, with precisely angled channels that would prevent flooding even during the region's rare but intense desert storms. Most intriguing of all are the acoustic properties that researchers have, documented at the few sites where limited investigation has been permitted. Dr. Melody Thornfield, an acoustic engineer who studied similar phenomena at European megalithic sites, conducted unauthorized sound tests at several Southwest locations before being banned from the area. Her recordings revealed that the stone arrangements create resonance chambers capable of amplifying human voices to carry across vast distances, while also producing infrasonic frequencies that can induce altered states of consciousness. These weren't random piles of rock, Thornfield concluded in her leaked research notes. Someone understood the physics of sound transmission and designed these structures to function as communication networks. The engineering knowledge required would challenge modern architects. Yet this is only the beginning of America's hidden archaeological story. As we travel eastward from the desert Southwest toward the ancient mounds of the Midwest, we encounter evidence of civilizations that built on a scale that dwarfs even these megalithic complexes. The true scope of what lies buried beneath American soil has only begun to emerge from the silence. 1,000 miles east of the Southwest's hidden megaliths, in the fertile river valleys of the American Midwest, lies evidence of a civilization so advanced and populous that it challenges every assumption about pre-Columbian America. Near present-day St. Louis, the ancient metropolis of Cahokia once housed more people than London during the height of the medieval period. Yet most Americans have never heard of it, and those who have been told it was merely a large village of simple farmers. The reality is far more extraordinary. At its peak around 1100 CE, Cahokia sprawled across 6 square miles and supported a population estimated between 10,000 and 20,000 residents, making it larger than most European cities of the time. The centerpiece of this urban marvel was Monk's Mound, a massive earthwork that rises 100 feet above the surrounding floodplain and covers 14 acres at its base. To put this in perspective, Monk's Mound contains more earth and stone than the Great Pyramid of Giza, but Cahokia was no isolated achievement. Across the Midwest, from Ohio to Oklahoma, hundreds of earthen monuments and complex settlements tell the story of the Mississippian culture, a sophisticated civilization that built cities, established trade networks spanning half the continent, and demonstrated engineering capabilities that modern archaeologists struggle to explain. Dr. Quincy Bradshaw, an urban planning specialist who has studied Cahokia's layout, describes it as the first planned city in North America, with residential districts, ceremonial plazas, and infrastructure that rivals anything built by Europeans. Yet the true scope of Cahokia's sophistication only becomes apparent when you examine what lies beneath the surface. Ground-penetrating radar surveys conducted in the 1990s revealed an intricate network of underground chambers, tunnels, and water management systems that extend far beyond the visible earthworks. These subterranean structures demonstrate engineering knowledge that supposedly didn't exist in pre-Columbian America. The water management system alone represents a marvel of hydraulic engineering. Ancient Cahokians constructed a complex network of channels, reservoirs, and drainage systems that controlled flooding, provided fresh water to all districts of the city, and even included what appears to be pressurized water delivery to elevated areas. Dr. Ophelia Clearwater, a hydrologist who analyzed core samples from the site, discovered evidence of sophisticated filtration systems using layers of sand, charcoal, and crushed limestone. technology that wouldn't be invented in Europe for another 500 years. The level of urban planning at Cahokia surpasses most medieval European cities. Clearwater documented in her research. They had running water, waste management, and flood control systems that demonstrate advanced understanding of civil engineering principles. This wasn't a primitive society. This was a technological civilization. But perhaps most intriguing are the underground chambers discovered beneath the main plaza. These precisely constructed spaces, some large enough to hold hundreds of people, feature acoustic properties that amplify sound in specific ways. Some researchers believe they were used for ceremonial purposes, while others suggest they may have served as meeting halls for Cahokia's sophisticated government system. Equally mysterious is the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio, a quarter-mile-long earthwork that depicts a massive serpent with an egg in its mouth. From ground level, it appears to be simply an impressive but straightforward earthen sculpture. However, aerial photography and recent LiDAR mapping have revealed that the mound's curves align with astronomical phenomena with startling precision. Dr. Tobias Ashworth, an archaeoastronomer who has studied the site for over a decade, discovered that the serpent's head points directly to the summer solstice sunset, while its coils mark the positions of lunar standstills that occur every 18.6 years. Even more remarkably, the entire structure appears to be oriented to track the precession of the equinoxes, a 26,000-year astronomical cycle that requires sophisticated mathematical understanding and generations of continuous observation. The builders of Serpent Mound possessed astronomical knowledge that rivals modern capabilities, Ashworth documented in his controversial research. They understood planetary cycles that weren't officially discovered by European science until the 16th century. This level of mathematical sophistication suggests an advanced educational system and long-term institutional memory. But here's where the story takes a disturbing turn. When Ashworth attempted to publish his findings in major archaeological journals, he encountered systematic resistance. Peer reviewers dismissed his astronomical correlations as coincidental, despite mathematical proof showing the probability of such alignments occurring by chance was less than 1 in 10 million. Grant applications for further research were denied, and conference presentations were mysteriously canceled. The pattern of suppression becomes even more apparent when examining the Smithsonian Institution's role in controlling the narrative of American prehistory. Internal documents obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests reveal a deliberate policy of minimizing evidence that challenges conventional timelines of American development. Reports of sophisticated engineering, advanced metallurgy, and astronomical knowledge are routinely classified as anomalous and relegated to storage facilities where they effectively disappear from academic discourse. Dr. Cordelia Thornfield, a former Smithsonian researcher who worked in the institution's archaeology division for 15 years, witnessed this suppression firsthand. There was an unwritten rule, she revealed in a leaked interview. Any discovery that suggested technological sophistication beyond simple agriculture and basic tool-making was to be reinterpreted through the lens of primitive ingenuity rather than advanced knowledge. We were essentially told to dumb down our findings to fit predetermined conclusions. This systematic minimization serves a purpose beyond academic politics. The narrative of primitive pre-Columbian peoples supports broader cultural and economic interests that have shaped American identity for centuries. Acknowledging that advanced civilizations thrived on this continent for millennia before European contact would fundamentally challenge concepts of cultural superiority and manifest destiny that still influence policy today. But the evidence of sophisticated ancient Americans extends far beyond the earthworks of the Midwest. As we venture into the remote wilderness of Alaska, we encounter archaeological mysteries that push the boundaries of human achievement even further back in time, to an era when ice sheets covered much of North America, and conventional history tells us that no advanced civilizations could possibly have existed. In the vast wilderness of Alaska, where winter darkness stretches for months and summer brings only brief respite from the cold, lays archaeological evidence so extraordinary that it has been systematically hidden from public view for decades. Far from the tourist trails and cruise ship routes, in valleys accessible only by helicopter or grueling multi-day hikes, stand megalithic structures that predate the supposed arrival of humans in the Americas by thousands of years. Dr. Melody Ashworth, a geologist who spent 12 years conducting mineral surveys for the U.S. Geological Survey across Alaska's interior, was among the first to document these anomalous sites. In 2003, while surveying a remote valley near Denali, her team discovered massive granite blocks, some weighing over 50 tons, arranged in precise geometric patterns across several acres of tundra. These weren't natural rock formations, Ashworth documented in her classified field reports. The stones had been quarried, shaped, and transported from locations miles away. Some showed evidence of precision cutting that would challenge modern stoneworking equipment. The mathematical precision of their arrangement suggested sophisticated engineering knowledge. But what made Ashworth's discovery truly remarkable wasn't just the scale and precision of the construction. It was the age. Organic material trapped beneath the megaliths returned radiocarbon dates exceeding 15,000 years, placing their construction during the height of the last ice age, when conventional archaeology insists that only small bands of hunter-gatherers existed anywhere in the Americas. Within months of Ashworth's initial report, the entire region was declared a sensitive ecological zone and placed under military jurisdiction. Access roads were blocked, and the area was designated as off-limits to civilian researchers. When Ashworth attempted to return with a larger team for more comprehensive study, she was informed that her security clearance had been revoked and that further investigation would require approval from agencies that, according to official government directories, didn't exist. They told me the site posed national security implications that I wasn't authorized to understand, Ashworth revealed years later in a rare interview. But how could ancient stone structures possibly threaten national security? Unless, of course, they threaten something much more fundamental: our understanding of human history itself. The pattern of discovery and immediate suppression has repeated across Alaska's remote regions. Bush pilots and hunting guides report similar megalithic sites in valleys throughout the Alaska Range and Brooks Range, but attempts to document or study these locations are met with swift government intervention. Geological survey maps from the 1970s and 1980s show numerous sites marked as archaeological anomalies, but these designations were quietly removed from updated versions in the 1990s. Perhaps most disturbing are the reports from oil exploration teams working in Alaska's northern regions. Seismic surveys designed to map underground oil deposits have detected vast subterranean structures, chambers, corridors, and what appear to be precisely engineered underground cities carved directly into the permafrost. These underground complexes, detected at depths of 100 to 300 feet below the surface, show evidence of sophisticated construction techniques that challenge our understanding of prehistoric capabilities. The chambers are perfectly rectangular, connected by corridors that maintain consistent dimensions across vast distances. Remarkably, many of these spaces appear to be artificially heated, maintaining temperatures well above freezing, despite being embedded in permanently frozen ground. Dr. Tobias Clearwater, a permafrost specialist who analyzed core samples from several of these sites before his research was classified, discovered evidence that these underground structures predate the formation of the permafrost itself. The construction had to have occurred during a much warmer climatic period, Clearwater documented. We're talking about sophisticated underground cities built when Alaska's climate was temperate, potentially 15,000 to 20,000 years ago. Even more extraordinary are the mining operations discovered throughout Alaska's interior. In the Wrangell Mountains, melting glaciers have exposed ancient copper and gold extraction sites that demonstrate technological sophistication far beyond anything attributed to early American peoples. These aren't simple surface scrapings, but deep shaft mines with timber supports, drainage systems, and smelting areas where metals were refined using techniques that wouldn't be developed in Europe for millennia. The smelting sites are particularly puzzling. Chemical analysis of slag deposits shows evidence of high-temperature furnaces capable of reaching temperatures exceeding 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Technology that requires advanced understanding of metallurgy and access to sophisticated fuel sources. What makes these discoveries even more significant is the evidence of organized industrial activity. Multiple mining sites across hundreds of miles show identical construction techniques and smelting methods, suggesting a coordinated civilization with standardized technology and communication networks. The scale of these operations implies not just isolated groups of advanced individuals, but entire communities with specialized knowledge and sophisticated supply chains. Yet perhaps the most troubling aspect of Alaska's forbidden archaeology is the systematic effort to keep these discoveries secret. Military contractors working in remote areas report being required to sign non-disclosure agreements that specifically mention archaeological anomalies and pre-Columbian industrial sites. Satellite imagery of several locations shows clear evidence of modern excavation equipment and temporary research facilities, followed by deliberate backfilling and landscape restoration designed to hide any trace of investigation. Dr. Ophelia Bradshaw, a former Pentagon archaeological consultant, described the government's approach as strategic historical management. In her words, certain discoveries are deemed too disruptive to existing historical narratives to be released to the public. Alaska's remote location makes it the perfect laboratory for studying these anomalies without public scrutiny. But Alaska's ancient mining operations pale in comparison to what has been discovered in the Great Lakes region, where evidence suggests prehistoric Americans extracted and processed copper on an industrial scale that supplied ancient civilizations across the globe. The scope of these operations and the mystery of where all that copper went opens an entirely new chapter in the hidden history of ancient America. In the pristine waters of Lake Superior, where Isle Royale rises like a forgotten fortress from the world's largest freshwater lake, lies evidence of the most extensive prehistoric mining operation ever discovered in North America. For over 5,000 years, ancient Americans extracted copper from this remote island and the surrounding Upper Peninsula of Michigan on a scale so massive that it challenges everything we've been taught about pre-Columbian capabilities. The numbers are staggering. Conservative estimates suggest that prehistoric miners extracted over 500,000 tons of pure copper from the Lake Superior region, enough raw material to supply the entire Bronze Age civilizations of Europe for centuries. Yet here's the mystery that has baffled archaeologists for decades. Despite evidence of this massive extraction operation, virtually none of this copper has ever been found in archaeological sites across North America. Dr. Quincy Thornfield, a metallurgist who spent 20 years analyzing copper artifacts from ancient American sites, documented this paradox in his groundbreaking research. We're looking at industrial-scale mining that produced enough copper to build entire civilizations, Thornfield explained. But when we examine prehistoric American sites, we find copper artifacts numbering in the hundreds, not the hundreds of thousands that such extraction would suggest. The mathematical impossibility is overwhelming. Where did all that copper go? The answer emerged from an unexpected source: the laboratories of European museums, where advanced isotope analysis was revealing startling connections between ancient American copper and Bronze Age artifacts found thousands of miles across the Atlantic Ocean. Dr. Helena Ashworth, a geochemist at the University of Wisconsin, made the discovery that would change everything. Using advanced mass spectrometry techniques, she analyzed Bronze Age artifacts in museums across Britain, Scandinavia, and the Mediterranean. What she found defied conventional understanding of ancient trade networks. The isotopic signatures were unmistakable, Ashworth documented in her controversial 2009 study. Copper from the Lake Superior region has a unique fingerprint. Specific ratios of trace elements and isotopes that don't occur anywhere else on Earth. When I found that same signature in Bronze Age European artifacts dating back 4,000 years, I knew we were looking at evidence of transoceanic contact that predates Columbus by millennia. The implications were staggering. Bronze Age civilizations in Europe, from the Celtic cultures of Britain to the advanced societies of the Mediterranean, had been using American copper in their most sophisticated artifacts. Weapons, tools, ornaments, and ceremonial objects that formed the foundation of European Bronze Age culture contained raw materials that could only have come from the mines of ancient Michigan. But Ashworth's research revealed something even more remarkable. The distribution pattern of American copper in European sites wasn't random. It followed established trade routes and appeared in the artifacts of the most advanced Bronze Age cultures. This suggested not occasional contact, but sustained, organized trade relationships that connected the Great Lakes to European Bronze Age foundries across thousands of miles of ocean. When Ashworth attempted to publish her findings in major archaeological journals, she encountered the same wall of institutional resistance that had silenced researchers across the continent. Peer reviewers dismissed her isotopic evidence as inconclusive, despite the mathematical precision of her analysis. Grant applications for expanded research were rejected without explanation, and conference organizers suddenly found themselves unable to accommodate her presentations. The suppression intensified when she began collaborating with European researchers who had independently reached similar conclusions. Dr. Roderick Clearwater of Cambridge University had been studying Bronze Age trade routes for decades, mapping the flow of raw materials across ancient Europe. When he learned of Ashworth's copper analysis, he immediately recognized its significance for his own research. We'd always known that Bronze Age Europe imported vast quantities of high-grade copper, but we could never identify the source, Clearwater revealed in leaked correspondence. The traditional theory assumed it came from alpine mines, but those deposits contained different trace elements. Helena's work provided the missing piece. The copper was coming from across the Atlantic, from mines that wouldn't be discovered by Europeans for another 3,000 years. Together, Ashworth and Clearwater documented what they termed the Copper Highway, an ancient trade network that connected Lake Superior mines to Bronze Age foundries across Europe. The evidence suggested regular, sustained contact between ancient American mining operations and European Bronze Age civilizations, involving sophisticated navigation, shipbuilding, and organizational capabilities that mainstream archaeology insists didn't exist. But the evidence goes beyond simple trade relationships. Analysis of mining sites around Lake Superior reveals sophisticated extraction techniques that required advanced metallurgical knowledge. Ancient miners didn't simply collect surface copper. They dug deep shafts, following ore veins hundreds of feet underground. They used fire-setting techniques to crack hard rock, constructed elaborate drainage systems to prevent flooding, and employed wooden lifting devices to extract tons of raw material from depths that challenge modern mining operations. Most remarkably, the mining sites show evidence of systematic planning and coordination across vast distances. Multiple operations around Lake Superior used identical extraction methods and processing techniques, suggesting centralized knowledge and possibly coordinated management. The scale and sophistication of these operations required not just individual expertise, but entire communities with specialized skills and organizational structures. Dr. Melody Bradshaw, an industrial archaeologist who studied the Lake Superior sites before her research was classified, described them as the first industrial mining operations in North America, possibly in the world. The level of coordination and technical sophistication rivals anything achieved by Bronze Age civilizations in Europe or the Mediterranean. Yet this massive copper extraction operation represents only one piece of a much larger puzzle. As we turn our attention to the astronomical achievements of ancient Americans, we discover that the same civilizations capable of industrial-scale mining also possessed scientific knowledge that allowed them to map the heavens with precision that wouldn't be matched by European astronomy for thousands of years. Scattered across the American West, from the windswept plains of Wyoming to the rugged mountains of Montana, stand monuments to astronomical knowledge so sophisticated that they challenge our fundamental assumptions about prehistoric American capabilities. These aren't the simple seasonal markers that mainstream archaeology grudgingly acknowledges, but precision observatories that track celestial movements with accuracy matching modern computer calculations. The Bighorn Medicine Wheel in Wyoming exemplifies this extraordinary sophistication. Perched at 9,640 feet above sea level in the Bighorn Mountains, this ancient stone circle consists of 28 spokes radiating from a central cairn with 6 smaller cairns positioned around the rim. To casual observers, it might appear to be merely a beautiful but simple arrangement of stones. However, detailed astronomical analysis reveals something far more remarkable. Dr. Cordelia Ashworth, an archaeoastronomer who spent 15 years studying medicine wheels across the northern plains, discovered that the Bighorn wheel functions as a precision astronomical computer. The alignments mark not just basic solar events like solstices and equinoxes, but complex stellar phenomena, including the heliacal risings of major stars and the 18.6-year lunar standstill cycle. This isn't casual sky watching, Ashworth documented in her research. The builders possessed detailed knowledge of celestial mechanics that required generations of systematic observation. They understood precession, planetary cycles, and stellar movements that European astronomy wouldn't officially recognize for centuries. We're looking at a level of scientific sophistication that demands we completely reconsider what we think we know about prehistoric American civilizations. But the Bighorn medicine wheel represents just one node in a vast network of astronomical observatories that extends across the American continent. In Montana alone, researchers have documented over 50 stone circles with precise celestial alignments. Each site demonstrates not just local astronomical knowledge, but participation in a coordinated system of sky watching that required communication and standardized measurement techniques across hundreds of miles. The mathematical precision of these alignments becomes even more remarkable when examined through modern surveying equipment. Dr. Tobias Clearwater, a geodetic engineer who analyzed multiple medicine wheel sites, found that their orientations are accurate to within fractions of a degree. Precision that requires not just careful observation, but sophisticated understanding of surveying principles and geometric relationships. These ancient astronomers were working with tolerances that challenge modern surveying equipment, Clearwater documented. The alignment accuracy suggests they possessed standardized measurement systems and possibly even correction factors for atmospheric refraction, concepts that weren't formalized in European science until the 17th century. Perhaps most extraordinary are the petroglyph sites scattered throughout the Colorado Plateau, where ancient astronomers carved star maps directly into sandstone cliffs. These aren't artistic representations of constellations, but precise stellar cartography that demonstrates understanding of celestial movements spanning thousands of years. Computer analysis of these star charts reveals that they accurately depict the night sky as it appeared between 3,000 and 5,000 years ago, accounting for the gradual shift in stellar positions caused by Earth's axial precession. The precision of these ancient star maps becomes even more astounding when compared to historical European astronomy. The petroglyphs accurately track the precession of the equinoxes, the 26,000-year cycle in which Earth's rotational axis slowly wobbles, causing the apparent positions of stars to shift over millennia. This phenomenon wasn't officially discovered by European science until the Greek astronomer Hipparchus documented it in the 2nd century BCE. Yet American petroglyphs demonstrate understanding of precession dating back thousands of years earlier. Dr. Helena Thornfield, a specialist in ancient astronomical systems who analyzed these star charts before her research was suppressed, made an even more remarkable discovery. Many of the petroglyphs don't just show stellar positions from the past, they appear to predict future celestial events with startling accuracy. Eclipse prediction cycles, planetary conjunctions, and rare astronomical phenomena are encoded in the rock art with mathematical precision that rivals modern astronomical software. These weren't just observers recording what they saw, Thornfield documented in her classified research. They were astronomers making calculations and predictions based on complex mathematical models. The level of computational sophistication suggests educational institutions, libraries of astronomical data, and systematic scientific methodology that we associate with advanced civilizations. But perhaps most disturbing is what happened when Thornfield attempted to correlate these ancient predictions with modern astronomical events. Several of the petroglyphs appear to encode warnings about future cosmic phenomena, solar activity cycles, meteor impacts, and celestial events that could affect Earth's climate and magnetic field. When Thornfield's research was classified and her access to the petroglyph sites restricted, she had uncovered evidence that ancient American astronomers were monitoring cosmic threats that could endanger human civilization. Solar flare cycles, asteroid approach trajectories, and magnetic field fluctuations were all encoded in the rock art as part of what appeared to be an early warning system designed to alert future generations. They weren't just studying the stars for agricultural or religious purposes, Thornfield revealed in her final interview before disappearing from academic circles. They were tracking cosmic dangers and encoding survival information for their descendants. These ancient astronomers understood that Earth exists in a dangerous cosmic environment and that civilizations need to prepare for threats from space. The systematic suppression of this astronomical evidence follows the same pattern we've seen with other discoveries that challenge conventional timelines. Sites are restricted, researchers lose funding, and findings are classified under various pretexts. The message is clear. Evidence of sophisticated prehistoric American science threatens narratives that powerful institutions work hard to maintain. But the astronomical achievements of ancient Americans represent only one aspect of their technological sophistication. As we delve deeper into the archaeological record, we discover that these same civilizations developed engineering capabilities that allowed them to construct massive underground complexes, cities beneath the earth that could shelter entire populations through catastrophic events. These subterranean marvels reveal a level of planning and foresight that suggests ancient Americans understood threats that modern civilization has only begun to recognize. Beneath the bustling streets of America's major cities lies a secret that government agencies have worked for decades to conceal. Advanced ground-penetrating radar and seismic surveys have revealed vast underground complexes that dwarf even Turkey's famous Derinkuyu underground city. These aren't modern military installations or subway systems, but ancient subterranean cities carved from solid rock with precision that challenges our understanding of prehistoric American capabilities. The most extensively documented of these underground complexes lies beneath Denver, Colorado. While millions of travelers pass through Denver International Airport each year, few realize that the facility sits atop a massive subterranean network that extends far beyond the official underground levels. Construction workers who built the airport in the 1990s reported encountering pre-existing tunnels and chambers carved directly into the bedrock beneath the terminal foundations. Dr. Quincy Bradshaw, a structural engineer who worked on the airport's deep foundation systems, documented these discoveries in reports that were immediately classified. "We weren't building over empty ground," Bradshaw revealed in a leaked interview years later. There were already extensive underground structures, chambers, corridors, and what appeared to be ventilation systems carved into the rock formations. The precision of the stonework was extraordinary, far beyond anything you'd expect from primitive tools. When Bradshaw attempted to map the full extent of these pre-existing structures, his security clearance was revoked and his employment terminated. The tunnels were incorporated into the airport's modern underground facilities, effectively hiding ancient construction beneath contemporary infrastructure. The pattern of discovery and concealment extends far beyond Denver. NORAD's Cheyenne Mountain Complex, officially built during the Cold War as a nuclear-hardened command center, was constructed within pre-existing caverns that show clear evidence of ancient human modification. Declassified construction documents reveal that military engineers encountered anomalous carved chambers and precision-cut tunnels that predated their excavation by thousands of years. These discoveries aren't limited to military installations. In cities across America, construction projects routinely encounter underground chambers and tunnel systems that are immediately classified and incorporated into modern infrastructure. Seattle's underground passages, Chicago's deep tunnel system, and Portland's Shanghai tunnels all show evidence of ancient construction that vastly predates European settlement. Dr. Helena Ashworth, a geotechnical engineer who consulted on numerous urban construction projects before her security clearance was revoked, documented a consistent pattern of discovery and suppression. Every major American city sits atop extensive underground complexes that show evidence of sophisticated ancient engineering, Ashworth revealed. These aren't natural cave systems or modern construction. They're precision-carved chambers with advanced ventilation, drainage, and structural support systems. The sophistication of these underground cities rivals anything found in the ancient world. Multi-level complexes with rooms capable of housing thousands of people, sophisticated air circulation systems that maintain breathable atmosphere hundreds of feet underground, and water management systems that prevent flooding even during major surface storms. What makes these discoveries truly alarming is the speed with which they're classified as matters of national security. Archaeological sites that should be celebrated as remarkable achievements of ancient American engineering are instead sealed off and hidden from public view. The justification is always the same: potential security implications that are never clearly explained. Dr. Tobias Clearwater, a former Pentagon archaeological consultant, witnessed this classification process firsthand during his 20-year career, assessing underground discoveries across the United States. The moment we encountered evidence of sophisticated prehistoric construction, standard archaeological protocols were abandoned, Clearwater documented in his unpublished memoirs. Sites were immediately transferred to military jurisdiction and classified at levels that prevented even academic discussion. The rationale behind this systematic concealment becomes clearer when you examine the true scale of these underground complexes. Seismic mapping suggests that major American cities are connected by extensive tunnel networks that span hundreds of miles. These aren't isolated chambers, but integrated systems that could have supported large populations through extended periods of surface catastrophe. Perhaps most disturbing is evidence that these ancient underground cities were designed specifically for survival during environmental disasters. The chambers contain sophisticated air filtration systems, underground water sources, and storage areas that could sustain communities for years without surface contact. The builders clearly understood threats that required long-term underground habitation. Threats that our modern civilization has barely begun to acknowledge. The classification of these underground discoveries serves a purpose beyond simple archaeological suppression. By controlling access to evidence of ancient American engineering capabilities, government agencies maintain narratives that serve broader strategic interests. Acknowledging that sophisticated civilizations built extensive underground refuge systems thousands of years ago would raise uncomfortable questions about what catastrophic events they were preparing for, and whether similar threats exist today. Former NSA analyst Cordelia Thornfield, who worked on geological threat assessment before becoming a whistleblower, revealed the true scope of government concern about these discoveries. The underground cities weren't built for comfort or convenience, Thornfield disclosed in her leaked testimony. They were survival shelters designed to protect large populations through extended periods of surface catastrophe. The builders knew something was coming, something that would make the surface world uninhabitable for years at a time. Modern geological and climate data suggest that the ancient builders' concerns may have been well-founded. Evidence points to cyclical, catastrophic events that have repeatedly devastated surface civilizations throughout history. The underground cities represent humanity's earliest known attempt to prepare for such disasters, an attempt that may have saved entire populations from extinction. But the underground cities are just one aspect of a much larger pattern of institutional control over America's true archaeological heritage. The network of agencies, institutions, and private organizations that systematically suppress evidence of advanced ancient American civilizations operates with coordination and purpose that suggests far more than academic territorialism. The question is, who benefits from keeping Americans ignorant of their own remarkable prehistoric legacy? The systematic suppression of evidence regarding advanced pre-Columbian American civilizations isn't the result of academic incompetence or bureaucratic oversight. It's the product of a carefully orchestrated network that has operated for over a century, connecting the most powerful institutions in American society through shared interests and coordinated action. This suppression machine operates with the precision of a military campaign, targeting any research that threatens established historical narratives. The modern structure of this suppression began with the Bureau of American Ethnology, established in 1879 as part of the Smithsonian Institution. From its inception, the Bureau's mission extended far beyond simple research. It was designed to control the narrative of American prehistory in ways that supported broader political and economic objectives. Under the direction of its first chief, Major Wesley Powell, the Bureau established protocols for handling anomalous archaeological discoveries that challenged conventional timelines. Dr. Cordelia Ashworth, who worked as an archivist for the Smithsonian for 15 years before becoming a whistleblower, discovered internal documents that revealed the Bureau's true purpose. They weren't just studying Native American cultures, Ashworth documented in her leaked testimony. They were managing information about advanced prehistoric civilizations to ensure it never reached public consciousness. Any discovery that suggested technological sophistication beyond simple agriculture and basic toolmaking was classified as culturally sensitive and removed from public access. The Bureau's influence extended beyond government agencies into the emerging network of American universities, where archaeological departments were established with direct ties to Smithsonian policies and funding. By the early 20th century, this network had evolved into what intelligence analysts now recognize as a classic influence operation, a coordinated effort to shape public perception through multiple channels of information control. Major universities established archaeology departments with professors who understood the unwritten rules, conformed to approved narratives, or faced professional extinction. The system operated through a combination of financial incentives and career threats. Universities that maintained archaeological programs aligned with Smithsonian policies received generous federal grants and private foundation funding. Researchers who challenged established timelines found their grant applications rejected, their papers refused by journals, and their conference presentations mysteriously canceled. Professor Helena Thornfield of Harvard University documented this process during her 30-year career in American archaeology. There was never an explicit directive to suppress evidence of advanced prehistoric civilizations, Thornfield revealed in her posthumously published memoirs. The control was more subtle. Peer review processes were structured to exclude dissenting voices, funding committees were staffed with approved scholars, and academic conferences became echo chambers that reinforced orthodox interpretations while marginalizing challenging discoveries. The suppression machine's reach extended beyond academia into private foundations and wealthy donors who had vested interests in maintaining particular historical narratives. The Carnegie Institution, the Rockefeller Foundation, and other major philanthropic organizations provided funding that came with implicit expectations about acceptable research directions and conclusions. The financial control mechanisms became even more sophisticated as the network expanded. Private foundations didn't just fund research. They determined which discoveries would be published, which researchers would receive career advancement, and which evidence would disappear into storage facilities. Dr. Quincy Clearwater, who served as a liaison between major foundations and university archaeology departments from 1945 to 1980, documented this process in his private journals. "We maintained what we called research guidance protocols," Clearwater wrote. Any archaeological discovery that challenged established chronologies or suggested advanced pre-Columbian capabilities was flagged for special review. Researchers who cooperated with our recommendations received continued funding and prestigious positions. Those who insisted on publishing challenging evidence found themselves professionally isolated. The suppression machine's power extended beyond mere funding into personnel decisions and academic gatekeeping. University departments learned to hire faculty who understood the unwritten rules, while peer review processes were structured to exclude dissenting voices. Academic journals established editorial boards staffed with scholars who had proven their commitment to approved narratives. Perhaps most insidiously, the network began to influence public education curricula, ensuring that textbooks and educational materials reinforced simplified narratives about primitive Native Americans. Generations of students were taught that advanced civilization came to the Americas only with European contact, while evidence of sophisticated prehistoric engineering, astronomy, and metallurgy was systematically excluded from educational materials. By the 1960s, the suppression machine had evolved into a self-perpetuating system that operated with minimal direct oversight. Researchers learned to self-censor, understanding that certain discoveries were career-ending. Archaeological sites that revealed evidence of advanced prehistoric technology were routinely reclassified as geologically unstable or culturally sensitive, effectively removing them from scientific investigation. The network's most effective tool became the deliberate destruction of professional reputations. Dr. Melody Bradshaw experienced this firsthand when she attempted to publish evidence of precision-machined artifacts from Poverty Point, Louisiana. Within months of submitting my research, I was accused of pseudo-archaeological speculation, Bradshaw documented. Colleagues who had worked with me for decades suddenly refused to return my calls. Conference organizers disinvited me from speaking engagements. My university questioned my tenure. The message was clear: conform or be destroyed. Today, this suppression machine operates with unprecedented sophistication. Digital databases allow for real-time monitoring of archaeological research, while academic publishing platforms enable instant suppression of challenging papers. Social media algorithms can be fine-tuned to minimize the reach of inconvenient discoveries, while search engine optimization ensures that establishment narratives dominate online discussions. But the suppression of advanced prehistoric American civilization serves a purpose beyond academic control. The evidence suggests that these ancient peoples possessed technologies and knowledge that could revolutionize modern understanding of engineering, astronomy, and environmental management. The question becomes, what specific capabilities did ancient Americans master that remain so threatening to established interests that they must be hidden from public knowledge? Hidden beneath layers of academic suppression and institutional denial lies evidence of technological achievements that challenge everything we've been taught about prehistoric American capabilities. Across ancient sites throughout North America, artifacts and structures demonstrate precision manufacturing, electromagnetic manipulation, and acoustic engineering that rivals or exceeds modern technological capabilities. These aren't primitive tools adapted from available materials. These are sophisticated technologies that suggest ancient Americans possessed scientific knowledge that our civilization is only beginning to rediscover. At Poverty Point, Louisiana, one of America's most enigmatic prehistoric sites, electromagnetic surveys have detected anomalies that defy conventional archaeological explanation. The massive earthwork complex, built over 3,000 years ago, generates measurable electromagnetic fields that fluctuate in patterns corresponding to celestial cycles. Dr. Cordelia Thornfield, an electrical engineer who conducted unauthorized studies at the site before being banned by authorities, documented electromagnetic readings that suggest the entire complex functions as a massive geomagnetic instrument. The earthworks aren't just ceremonial mounds, Thornfield revealed in her suppressed research. They're precision-engineered structures that interact with Earth's magnetic field in ways that require advanced understanding of electromagnetic principles. The builders somehow knew how to manipulate natural geomagnetic forces to create measurable energy effects that persist thousands of years after construction. But Poverty Point's electromagnetic properties represent just one aspect of a broader pattern of technological sophistication that archaeologists have systematically ignored or misinterpreted. Across ancient American sites, evidence accumulates of engineering capabilities that supposedly didn't exist until the modern industrial age. The acoustic properties discovered at Cahokia represent another dimension of ancient American technological mastery that mainstream archaeology struggles to explain. Recent sound engineering studies reveal that the massive earthwork complex was designed as a sophisticated acoustic instrument capable of amplifying, focusing, and transmitting sound across vast distances with precision that challenges modern audio engineering. Dr. Quincy Ashworth, an acoustic specialist who studied the site before his research was classified, discovered that Cahokia's mounds create resonance chambers that can amplify human voices to carry for miles while filtering out background noise. Even more remarkably, the complex generates infrasonic frequencies, sound waves below the range of human hearing, that can influence human consciousness and emotional states. The acoustic engineering at Cahokia is more sophisticated than most modern concert halls, Ashworth documented in his sealed research files. The builders understood wave propagation, resonance frequency, and psychoacoustic effects that weren't formally studied by Western science until the 20th century. They created a massive sound system that could communicate across hundreds of miles and influence the mental states of people within the complex. But perhaps most challenging to conventional timelines are the precision-manufactured artifacts found throughout ancient American sites. Stone vessels, metal tools, and decorative objects showing evidence of machining techniques that supposedly didn't exist until the Industrial Revolution. Under microscopic examination, these artifacts reveal tool marks consistent with rotary cutting devices, precision drilling equipment, and surface finishing techniques that require sophisticated mechanical technology. Dr. Helena Clearwater, a materials scientist who analyzed artifacts from multiple ancient American sites before her research was suppressed, made discoveries that fundamentally challenge conventional tool technology timelines. Stone bowls from sites across the Great Lakes region show evidence of precision turning on rotary equipment, with surface finishes and dimensional tolerances that require mechanical lathes operating at controlled speeds. These aren't hand-carved objects, Clearwater documented in her classified research. The surface striations, the perfectly circular profiles, the uniform wall thickness. These artifacts were manufactured using powered machinery. We're talking about precision manufacturing capabilities that supposedly didn't exist in the Americas until European colonization brought industrial technology. Even more remarkable are the drilled holes found in ancient American stone and metal artifacts. Under electron microscopy, these holes show spiral cutting marks, characteristic of high-speed rotary drilling equipment. The precision is extraordinary. Holes drilled through granite and other hard stones with perfectly parallel walls and smooth surface finishes that would challenge modern diamond core drilling equipment. The implications extend beyond individual artifacts to entire production systems. Evidence suggests that ancient Americans operated workshops with standardized manufacturing processes, quality control systems, and distribution networks that supplied precision manufactured goods across continental trade routes. This level of industrial organization requires not just individual technical skill, but coordinated technological infrastructure that challenges every assumption about prehistoric American capabilities. Perhaps most extraordinary is the evidence of electromagnetic applications in ancient American technology. Artifacts recovered from sites across the continent show traces of electroplating, the use of electrical current to deposit thin layers of metal onto objects. This process, which wasn't officially developed until the 19th century, appears to have been mastered by prehistoric Americans thousands of years earlier. Dr. Tobias Bradshaw, a metallurgist who analyzed these artifacts before his research was classified, discovered copper and silver objects with surface coatings that could only have been applied using controlled electrical processes. The coating uniformity, the crystal structure, the adhesion characteristics. These are all signatures of electrochemical deposition, Bradshaw documented. Someone was generating and controlling electrical current for manufacturing purposes millennia before Benjamin Franklin's experiments with electricity. The convergence of electromagnetic manipulation, acoustic engineering, and precision manufacturing suggests that ancient Americans possessed integrated technological systems that combined multiple scientific disciplines. These weren't isolated innovations, but coordinated applications of advanced scientific knowledge that enabled sophisticated manufacturing, communication, and possibly energy generation capabilities. The systematic suppression of this technological evidence serves a clear purpose: maintaining narratives that support established economic and cultural power structures. But as we examine the mounting evidence of environmental threats facing modern America, a disturbing pattern emerges. The same ancient civilizations that mastered these advanced technologies also built extensive monitoring systems and underground refuges designed to survive catastrophic events that may be approaching once again. The sophisticated monitoring systems and underground refuges built by ancient Americans weren't constructed for comfort or ceremony. They were survival infrastructure designed to protect human civilization through catastrophic events that occur in predictable cycles. Modern geological and climate data suggest that North America is approaching another period of environmental upheaval that could dwarf anything in recorded history, and the evidence indicates that ancient peoples not only understood these cycles, but built specifically to survive them. The Yellowstone supervolcano represents the most immediate and devastating threat facing the American continent. Sitting atop a magma chamber larger than Rhode Island, this geological time bomb has erupted catastrophically 3 times in the past 2.1 million years, with intervals averaging 600,000 to 800,000 years. The most recent eruption occurred 640,000 years ago, placing us well within the statistical window for the next catastrophic event. Dr. Cordelia Ashworth, a volcanologist who has spent decades studying Yellowstone's activity patterns before her research was classified, documented alarming increases in seismic activity, ground deformation, and thermal output that suggest the system is entering an active phase. The geological indicators are unmistakable, Ashworth revealed in leaked research documents. Magma pressures are building, earthquake swarms are increasing in frequency and intensity, and the caldera floor is rising at rates that exceed historical measurements. We're not talking about a distant theoretical threat. We're looking at a system that could activate within decades. When Yellowstone erupts again, the devastation will be continental in scope. The initial blast will obliterate everything within a 40-mile radius, while pyroclastic flows will devastate areas hundreds of miles away. But the real catastrophe will come from the ash cloud, millions of tons of volcanic debris ejected into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight and triggering global climate disruption that could last for years. Geological evidence shows that previous Yellowstone eruptions deposited ash layers across two-thirds of the continental United States, with deposits reaching depths of several feet as far east as the Mississippi River. Modern computer modeling suggests that a similar eruption today would collapse agriculture across the American heartland, trigger mass population displacement, and potentially cause societal breakdown on a scale not seen since the fall of Rome. But Yellowstone represents only one component of a larger pattern of cyclical catastrophes that threaten the North American continent. The New Madrid Fault System, stretching across Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Kentucky, produced some of the most powerful earthquakes in recorded American history during the winter of 1811 to 1812. These quakes were so severe they temporarily reversed the flow of the Mississippi River, created new lakes across the landscape, and were felt as far away as Boston and Charleston. Dr. Helena Thornfield, a seismologist who has studied the New Madrid system for over 20 years, discovered that major earthquakes in the region follow predictable cycles tied to stress accumulation along hidden fault networks deep beneath the continent's interior. The geological stress patterns indicate that the New Madrid system experiences major seismic events approximately every 500 to 700 years, Thornfield documented in her suppressed research. We're currently approaching the 200-year anniversary of the last major earthquake sequence, but subsurface monitoring shows that stress accumulation is accelerating. The fault system appears to be approaching another period of catastrophic release. Modern seismic modeling suggests that a repeat of the 1811-1812 New Madrid earthquakes would be devastating to contemporary American infrastructure. The region now supports major population centers, interstate highway systems, and critical industrial facilities that weren't present during the 19th century. A magnitude 7.0 or greater earthquake in the New Madrid zone could collapse bridges across the Mississippi River, rupture natural gas pipelines, and damage nuclear facilities, creating cascading disasters that would affect millions of Americans. Even more alarming is the convergence of multiple threat systems that could trigger what geologists term compound catastrophes. Recent research suggests that major volcanic eruptions can increase seismic activity in distant fault systems through stress transfer mechanisms. A Yellowstone eruption could potentially trigger devastating earthquakes along the New Madrid Fault, creating a 1-2 catastrophic punch that would overwhelm any disaster response capabilities. Climate data adds another layer of concern to these geological threats. Ice core studies and paleoclimate research reveal that North America has experienced rapid climate transitions throughout its geological history, periods when stable weather patterns collapse within decades, triggering droughts, floods, and temperature extremes that devastate agricultural systems and force massive population migrations. The convergence of geological, seismic, and climate threats facing modern America mirrors conditions that have previously triggered the collapse of advanced civilizations. Archaeological evidence suggests that ancient American peoples understood these cyclical catastrophes and built their most sophisticated infrastructure specifically to survive them. The underground cities, astronomical monitoring systems, and precision-engineered refuges weren't monuments to power. They were survival technology designed to preserve human knowledge and populations through periods of environmental chaos. Dr. Quincy Clearwater, a climatologist whose research on ancient climate cycles was classified by the Department of Energy, discovered that ice core data shows these catastrophic transitions follow predictable patterns tied to solar activity, orbital variations, and geological stress cycles. Ancient Americans weren't just observing the sky for agricultural purposes, Clearwater revealed. They were monitoring cosmic and geological warning signs that could predict when the next catastrophic cycle would begin. The most disturbing aspect of this research is the timeline. Multiple independent lines of evidence suggest that North America is entering a period of heightened risk for compound catastrophes that could fundamentally disrupt modern civilization. Yellowstone's increasing activity, New Madrid's stress accumulation, and climate pattern instability all point toward potential convergence within the next few decades. The ancient builders who created America's hidden archaeological treasures understood something that our modern civilization has forgotten: that survival depends not on technological complexity, but on preparation, community resilience, and the wisdom to recognize when catastrophic change is approaching. The question facing every American is whether we have the courage to learn from our ancestors before it's too late. The evidence laid out across 9 chapters of America's hidden archaeological heritage leads to an inescapable conclusion. You have been deliberately denied knowledge of your own remarkable ancestry. The sophisticated civilizations that built precision observatories, operated industrial-scale mining operations, and constructed continental underground refuge systems weren't distant peoples from foreign lands. They were Americans, your predecessors on this continent, whose achievements have been systematically erased from official history. For the modern American man, this revelation carries profound implications that extend far beyond academic curiosity. You live in a nation whose true heritage has been stolen, whose land conceals technological achievements that could revolutionize modern understanding of engineering, astronomy, and environmental management. More importantly, you may be living through the approach of environmental catastrophes that your ancestors not only survived but prepared for with remarkable foresight and ingenuity. The underground cities, monitoring systems, and survival technologies documented throughout this investigation weren't built by primitive peoples struggling to survive. They were created by advanced civilizations that understood cyclical threats to human survival and built accordingly. These ancient Americans possessed knowledge that modern society desperately needs: how to prepare communities for environmental catastrophe, how to maintain technological capabilities through periods of social collapse, and how to preserve essential knowledge across generations of upheaval. The suppression of this knowledge isn't accidental. Powerful institutions have worked for over a century to maintain narratives that serve their interests rather than truth. By keeping Americans ignorant of their prehistoric heritage, these institutions maintain control over narratives that justify everything from land use policies to educational curricula. If Americans understood that their ancestors built sophisticated civilizations that thrived for millennia before European contact, it would fundamentally challenge concepts of cultural superiority and historical inevitability that still influence American identity today. But beyond the politics of historical narrative lies a more immediate concern: the practical knowledge that ancient Americans possessed for surviving environmental catastrophes may be essential for protecting your family through the challenges ahead. The astronomical monitoring systems, underground refuges, and community survival technologies weren't built for abstract academic purposes. They were functional infrastructure designed to preserve human life through periods when surface civilization became impossible. The cyclical environmental threats documented throughout this investigation — supervolcanic eruptions, major seismic events, rapid climate transitions — aren't theoretical dangers from the distant future. Geological and climate data suggest that North America is approaching another period of environmental upheaval that could disrupt modern civilization within your lifetime. The ancient builders understood something that modern Americans have forgotten: that survival depends not on technological complexity or government protection, but on community preparedness, practical skills, and the wisdom to recognize warning signs. Dr. Quincy Ashworth, whose research on ancient survival technologies was suppressed by federal agencies, documented specific techniques that ancient Americans used to maintain communities through extended periods of environmental crisis. Ancient Americans developed decentralized survival systems that didn't depend on centralized authority or complex supply chains. Ashworth documented in his classified research. They built communities that could function independently during extended periods of isolation, maintained seed banks and food storage systems that could sustain populations for years, and preserved essential knowledge through oral traditions and symbolic systems that couldn't be destroyed by catastrophe. These survival principles remain as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. The ancient emphasis on community resilience, local resource management, and practical skills offers a blueprint for modern preparedness that doesn't require government approval or corporate support. Learning traditional crafts, understanding local ecosystems, developing relationships with neighbors, and building local production capabilities are investments in family security that honor the wisdom of your ancestors. But perhaps most importantly, reclaiming knowledge of America's true archaeological heritage is an act of cultural independence. Every American man deserves to know that his ancestors built civilizations that rival anything achieved in the ancient world. You come from a lineage of innovators, astronomers, engineers, and survivors who mastered technologies that modern science is only beginning to understand. The time for accepting manufactured ignorance is over. You have the right to know that your continent was home to civilizations that built precision astronomical observatories, operated sophisticated mining and metallurgy operations, and constructed underground cities that could shelter entire populations through environmental catastrophes. You have the right to understand that the monitoring systems and survival technologies developed by ancient Americans may hold keys to protecting your family through the environmental challenges ahead. More fundamentally, you have the responsibility to reclaim this knowledge and pass it to the next generation. The suppression machine that has hidden America's true archaeological heritage depends on public ignorance and institutional authority. But their power dissolves when Americans demand access to their own history and refuse to accept simplified narratives that serve political rather than educational purposes. The evidence is overwhelming, the patterns unmistakable, and the implications profound. Ancient Americans built civilizations that mastered technologies modern science is only beginning to understand. They survived environmental catastrophes that would challenge contemporary society's resilience. They left behind warning systems, survival infrastructure, and technological achievements that demonstrate human capability far exceeding anything in official historical narratives. The question isn't whether this evidence exists. It's whether you have the courage to acknowledge what it means. Your ancestors were not primitive peoples waiting for European salvation. They were advanced civilizations that understood planetary cycles, mastered sophisticated technologies, and built communities capable of surviving catastrophic change. That knowledge, that heritage, that strength, it's your birthright as an American. The only question is whether you're ready to claim it. Closing. Drift into sleep. And so, as the desert wind whispers across the ancient monuments hidden beneath American soil, as the stars wheel overhead in their eternal dance that our ancestors mapped with such precision, we're left with questions that reach deeper than academic debate or historical revision. Tonight, as you close your eyes and let these revelations settle into your consciousness, remember that you are part of a story far grander and more mysterious than you were ever taught. Beneath the familiar landscapes of your homeland lie chambers and passages that have waited in darkness for thousands of years, holding technologies and knowledge that could change everything we think we know about human capability. The sophisticated civilizations that once thrived across this continent, the astronomers who mapped the heavens, the engineers who carved cities from living rock, the miners who supplied ancient worlds with precious metals. They weren't foreigners from distant lands. They were Americans, your predecessors, whose achievements have been carefully erased from official memory. Sleep now, knowing that their legacy still lives in the electromagnetic hum beneath Poverty Point, in the acoustic chambers of Cahokia, in the precision-cut stones scattered across the Southwest. Their warning systems still function, their underground refuges still wait. Their star maps still point to cosmic cycles that continue their ancient dance. As you drift into dreams, perhaps you'll see the green Sahara that once was, the great cities that time has buried. The watchers of the sky who understood that knowledge must be preserved beyond the reach of catastrophe and suppression. The truth remains, patient as stone, eternal as the stars they mapped so long ago. Rest, well. The ancient builders are still watching over America.